am so excited. We have reached an official milestone with this episode. We are at episode 22, and I once read a statistic at the beginning of my podcast journey that the top, it's either 5 or 10%. I can't remember the exact statistic now, but I've always had this goal in mind to get past episode 21, because when you do, you're automatically in that top like 5 to 10%, whatever the statistic was. But most people give up before then. So I am proud of myself for making it past episode 21, and I am very grateful for you guys to have been along on this journey.
What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower? It's our time, take back the power. What's your plan?
Hey guys, welcome back to the Rebel Show. I am Bree Mesquit, and I'm excited about this one today. This is a question I am asked so often. I see people talking about it in Facebook groups often, and there's a lot of confusion behind it. So I'm here today to give you 9 things to consider when pricing your services. So this is a big one. This is probably one of the top concerns for new solo estheticians, is like, how the heck do I price my services? So I'm going to give you 9 things to consider, and then you can go from there. So this is going to give you a really solid base and starting point. All right. The first is going to be research local market rates. So you're going to want to look at what are other waxers, what are other estheticians charging. Note the high end, note the low end, and really honestly, if you're just getting started, you really want to tend to be somewhere in the middle. You don't want to be the highest, because that's usually someone who either has more experience, they provide more of a luxury service maybe. Usually they've been, like I said, more experienced, and they've been in the game a little bit longer and have a fully built out clientele. So you don't tend to want to be the highest yet, because you haven't like achieved that level yet. Okay. We're working towards that, but we want to make sure that we're being realistic and self-aware. You also don't want to be the lowest, because then that just relates to a client. You're going to build a certain type of clientele, and with that, and then once you've realized like, okay, I need to be charging more, and you up your prices, it's really hard, because a lot of times you'll lose all of those clients that you've built up into that point, and you're almost starting over. So really being in a good mid-range, and then if anything, offering some specials and discounts to get people in the door is ideal. But it's really important that on your service menu, you have the original regular pricing, and then it's like showing it being discounted, so that technically you're not going and having to raise your prices on your clients. You're just going, the special is no longer running. So if that makes sense, but just research what people in your area are charging, and then really try to be kind of at that middle ground. You also want to consider the demographics in your area and their spending habits. So my pricing in Newport Beach, California definitely would look a whole heck of a lot different than, say, if I was in, what's another city down, like Westminster or something. Westminster demographics are going to have a lower spending habit than those who are located in Newport Beach. So not only your local like competition, but also the demographics of the people that live in your area and are most likely to become your clients. Okay. Second thing to consider is your costs and your overhead. So I know this can be a little bit difficult, but what some of the factors that you want to factor in is rent, utilities, your equipment, and all of your supplies, your insurance, and then any other business expenses that it is that you have. Then you want to look at, of course, like your product cost, the cost of your product per service. So how the heck do we figure this one out? It was a mystery to me for a long time, and then I finally kind of figured it out. So this is what I did. So I'd have my 5-pound wax pot, and I filled it all the way to the brink, all the way to the top. So I fit in a solid 5 pounds of wax into my wax pot. And then what I did was I kept a little 3x5 note card next to my pot. And I would write down, first of all, what brand of wax I was using, because at this point when I discovered this method, I did not have my own line yet, and I was actually testing out different waxes and seeing what it was that I wanted to use in the treatment room. So I wrote down what wax I was using, the date, the starting date when I filled my pot all the way up. And then every time I'd have a service come in, I'd write down like Brazilian. And then I started doing tally marks so that each time I had another Brazilian come in, I'd just add a tally mark. If I did a brow service, I'd write brows and then add a tally mark. Underarm, full leg, whatever. I would tally mark, I would write down the services, tally it up, and I would use my pot until it was completely empty, like bare bone, as empty as I could possibly get it. I would literally prop my pot up so that all the wax was like pooled up. Like when it got to the very bottom, I'm telling you, I scraped my pot clean so that I could have a true, accurate, like average of what it cost me per service. So then what I did from there was I wrote down, okay, 5 pounds of wax cost me, I'm trying to think of what our 5 pound bag, it's like $89. Let's just round it up to 90. 5 pounds of wax cost me $90. I made $700 from the services. So subtract 90 from 70. I turned a profit of $610 per 5 pounds of wax used. So that's one way that you can do it. And then what I would recommend is reevaluating that and doing that same method, maybe every quarter, every like 3 months or 6 months, and then a year as you get further down the line. Because when we first get started, a lot of times we overuse wax. We really tend to do that when we're new, I've seen it with my students. I've seen it at the different centers I've trained. Newbies definitely tend to overuse wax. So you want to just kind of reevaluate. And then once you're really like confident in your technique, you know you're using the correct amount of wax, then maybe you start testing against different brands. That's one thing I pride myself with Rebel Wax, is that the number one compliment I get back from our customers is that they don't feel like they have to use as much wax. They're not having to do as many cleanup strips. So that right there automatically increases your profit margin. So it's really important to be able to calculate your costs and then think of the labor costs as well and your time. So what I used to do, and now this was back in 2017. I was in Newport Beach, California. It's a lot different now than present time of us being in 2024. Prices have definitely gone up. But what I did was I kind of calculated based on my product usage and costs, my overhead costs, including all those things I listed, rent, utilities, etc., and my location demographics. I calculated that I need to be making at minimum $100 an hour. Now, this is not our take home. This is our like gross profit, not our take home. Okay. But I factored that I needed to be making $100 an hour. So if I were to ever add a service to my menu, say I was adding Brazilians, say I wasn't offering Brazilians yet, and I added Brazilians and I knew that it takes me 30 minutes to do a Brazilian, then I knew my base pricing needed to be at least $50. Okay. Cause 30 minutes. So half of an hour is 30 minutes, right? So half of 100 is 50. So I figured that's my base cost. Then I would factor in the other things. Okay. Well, what's the local market doing? What are other people charging? Like what number makes sense to be 50 or higher, but is still putting me at that mid range compared to what others in the area are charging. And then also looking at your demographics. Like, is this something that they can afford? Is it too cheap? Are they going to think that I'm inexperienced because I'm not charging enough? So it's always okay to go above that price for sure, but you just know that that's kind of your base. Because for me, I can do a Brazilian in 15 minutes, so I'm booking 4 clients an hour. There's no way in heck that I'm charging only $25 for a Brazilian. So that's when then I revert back. Okay, at least I'm making what I need to be to covering my costs, my time, be making a profit. But now that's way too low. So let me look at the local market. Let me look at the demographics and pick a number that really makes sense based on those things as well. All right. So that's thing number 2 to consider is just calculating your costs. Hey guys, quick interruption to the show to bring you a offer you won't be able to resist. If you have not yet tried Rebel Wax, then go ahead and visit our site, lashandwaxoc.com, and use code TRYREBEL, all one word, code TRYREBEL, to claim 2 free sample size bags. The third thing to consider is going to be factoring in your experience and your expertise. So this is so important. I see so many coming into the industry wanting to charge those higher level prices or higher prices as a complete newbie. And that's not fair either. That's not running your business with integrity, because think of the client on their side of the coin. They're like, I'm paying, I don't know, $75 for Brazilian for someone who is in essence kind of practicing and gaining experience on me, when I could go to so-and-so across the way who charges maybe $5 more or even the same pricing, and she has 10 years under her belt, and I know for a fact I'm going to get an excellent service. So it's really important that you are factoring in your expertise and your experience level as well, and that we're charging fairly, because in essence, when you are first starting out, you are being paid to like learn. Your clients are paying you for the service, but you're still in the learning and like practicing and hands-on, experience, which we're always learning and growing. But at the beginning, especially, you're still very new, very much learning different techniques, what works, what doesn't work. So that's the third thing to consider. All right. The fourth is going to be your desired profit margin. So kind of like the rule of thumb, a healthy profit margin within the beauty industry tends to be 20 to 30%. So after all your costs, so say, I'm trying to use an easy number so I can do the math. Say, I don't know, $100 is your cost, then you would at least need to be charging 130. Now, I do feel like this is like the average. I was looking it up on what a typical profit margin is in the beauty industry, and that's what it said, 20 to 30%. But I really feel like we tend to have a little bit higher profit margins when it comes to waxing specifically. So just keep that in mind. This number is based on beauty services in general, but waxing is one of the higher profitable services because you don't use a ton of product. We can charge like decently high prices for it. It's a sought after service, and the faster you get, the higher those profits go up. So you might start off with booking a client for 45 minutes to an hour for a Brazilian, but after you get a couple years under your belt, then you're down to 15. So you're automatically giving yourself a raise right there too. So I definitely think for waxing, our profit margins probably tend to be closer to like 30, 40, even 50%, could even be higher than that. So make sure that you know what those numbers are. So it's really important to even know these numbers, you guys. You guys need go back and listen to my podcast about getting started, what you need to get started going solo, like and considering maybe hiring a bookkeeper, making sure that you're tracking it. Go back and listen to that lesson. I talk about bank accounts, forming an LLC, all the things, but you need to make sure that you know your numbers. I can't tell you how many girls will book a discovery call for coaching with me, and then I ask to see their P&L report, or just ask what their margins are, ask what their, net and gross profit and all that. And they have no clue. You cannot grow something that's not being measured and tracked. Okay. So this is the lifeline of your business. You need to know these numbers. Okay. All right. The fifth thing to consider, it's called a USP. What the heck is a USP? Unique selling proposition. So you might be someone who maybe you use all CBD products, and that's like a unique selling proposition. Maybe you can charge a little bit more for that. Maybe all the products you use are organic. Maybe you use Rebel Wax and you can charge a little bit more because you're using high quality, best of the best products in your treatment room. Maybe you add a little eucalyptus steamed warm towel at the end of the service. Like maybe you have an add-on of a hydro jelly mask. So whatever your unique selling proposition is can be factored in with your price point as well. So personally, the esthetician and waxer that I go to, her name is Becca, and she owns Celestial Aesthetics Becca. That's her Instagram handle. And I love the way she performs her service. She definitely has a unique selling proposition. She has that warm eucalyptus towel at the end of the service. So Becca has a lot of like unique little things that she does throughout her service that I personally don't do, but I, as a client, really do enjoy it and appreciate that. So I don't mind spending the extra $5 to have that experience. So that's the fifth thing to consider is your unique product, your unique selling proposition. Also, shout out to Becca. Her growth has been amazing to see. She actually did a private training with me when I first moved up here to Bend, probably like 3 years ago now. And just seeing her growth and the way she cares for her clients has been really cool. She does an absolute great job. Hence why I go and see her, and she does use Rebel. So that's just icing on the cake. But I would go to her regardless if she was using Rebel or not. All right, sixth thing to consider when pricing your services is going to be you might want to consider setting tiered prices. So what do I mean by that? You can have package deals, which if you haven't watched that lesson, go back and watch that. It's also listed in my free 6-week course. I talk about memberships and packages and how I utilize them in my business when I was client focused. So that might be something that you offer as well. So of course you're encouraging them to buy more up front, but then they're getting a slight discount. You could also have different service tiers. So maybe you have, like, I know you guys have probably been to a nail salon where they give you like a menu to choose from, and there's like basic, premium, luxury, or whatever. So maybe you consider that as well. Maybe you have just for a Brazilian on its own, no fluff. It's like, and these aren't accurate numbers, okay? But say it's like $50. But then say you do a Brazilian with a hydrogelly mask at the end, and then that's like $60. Or maybe you have a Brazilian with a hydrogelly mask, and while the hydrogelly mask is setting, you're giving a hand massage. Then maybe that's $75. So you can have different tiers too, so that you can really cater to the budget of different clients as well. So that's another thing that you could consider. All right. The seventh thing to consider when pricing your services is your location. So if you're in like a high cost area, luxury area, like I was in Newport Beach. I was in Newport Beach, California, Orange County, on PCH across from the Balboa Bay Club. Literally couldn't get like higher like luxury than that, at least in my area. But I also had a killer deal on my lease. So I stayed really fair. I knew based on that location, based on the parking being awesome, because usually in that area, parking was a huge issue. So based on all of these things, I knew I could charge a little bit more just because of my location, not even factoring in because of my lease. Because like I said, I got a killer deal on my lease, but that's something you guys would have to factor in as well if you are paying more because of the area you're in. But just the fact of the convenience and where I was located, I was able to adjust my pricing accordingly and charge a little bit more for that. Eighth thing to consider is you want to make sure that you're reviewing and adjusting regularly. So maybe like right now we're really dealing with like these high inflations, right? It's insane. I go to the grocery store and I was just talking to I talk to everyone about this because it's like really top of mind right now. We'd go to Costco and we're a family of 5, right? And we'd have like a full cart, and it used to cost us like $300-$400, which was a lot, but like we also got a lot. Now we're going in and trying to get just like the basic necessities and not going overboard with trying the samples and being like, oh my God, that's really good, I need to get that, and just throwing stuff in the cart. We're really intentional about just getting like our basic weekly needs, and we're at like $700 on one Costco run. It is insane. But what's my point of that? It's like you do need to reevaluate and adjust as needed. So if your costs are majorly going up, then it might be time to increase your pricing. But you want to make sure you're communicating this with your clients and you're giving them a heads up. So at minimum 30 days heads up. I personally prefer even like 60 to 90 days. 90 can be a lot, I know. So like 30 to 60 is totally fine. You want to communicate with them in different ways. So you want to be building your email list and being able to do an email blast out to your clients. You want to post it on your socials. And then you also want to tell them in person or even send out a personal text to your clients and give them a heads up. And then and this is kind of off topic, but this is a question I get asked a lot too. When you're raising your prices, you want to have a option for them to lock in at your current pricing. So you might consider those package deals. It's like, hey, so by April 1st, I'm going to need to increase my price to 65 for a Brazilian. Say you were at 60 or something. I'm going to be increasing to 65, But I also have the option of buy 3, get 1 free right now, so you can lock in at my current pricing. So that's something you can do too, to help like with that pushback you might get from clients when you do decide to increase your pricing. But don't be afraid to do it. Look at everything is going up. So it's like we need to make sure that we are protecting those profit margins, right? So as your cost goes up, the cost of your service needs to follow. But there is a nice way to do it, to where you're serving your clients well. Know though that you will tend to lose some people, okay? But that's okay. We want to have the mindset of that you're opening it up for future ideal clients. So naturally, when you raise prices, you'll lose some people. But what I've experienced is a lot of times they end up coming back because they go and try somewhere else that's cheaper, and they realize that the experience and the level of service just isn't there. And they're willing to spend that extra $5, $10, $15 to come and have a really excellent experience and service with you. So that was thing number 8. All right. The last thing to consider and is really, really important when marketing your services is communicating your value. So ensuring that your pricing does reflect on the quality and the value of the services that you offer. Be super transparent with your clients about what it is that they're paying for, including your expertise, the products that you're using, and the experience that you bring to the table. And having that experience, you'll have confidence in that as well. Like right now, it is so easy for me to I actually don't charge a ton because I'm using my own products. I'm not focused on clients. I'm actually taking clients in order to get content to be able to continue to provide education for you guys. But I absolutely, if I was just client focused again and I needed to start, I would have no problem charging $80, $85, $90 for a Brazilian because of my expertise level, the quality of products that it is that I'm using, and just the overall experience that I know I'm providing. So make sure though that you're passing that along, and you're communicating that value with your clients. Again, on your social medias, any of your marketing material, you want to continue to communicate that value that it is that you're providing. So that's the final thing to consider when pricing your services. If you guys have any further questions about this, you feel like there's something I've missed and I didn't touch on, there's something you want me to dive deeper into, let me know in the comments below. I'd love if you could pass this along to anyone who is considering starting up their own business and they're just stuck on how to price their services. Please forward this episode to them. Make sure to like, subscribe, turn on your notifications. 99% of you that tune in every week are not subscribed. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. And it just shows support to me, and I really, really appreciate it. When you do that, I'm able to continue with providing this free education to you guys and help support you and the growth of your businesses. All right, I will see you guys back next week.